Hi, everyone. Good evening. Carl Steinbeck here. Didn't think I'd be covering this case anymore, but I thought we'd just cover some interesting stuff that has been coming across the news stations. We finally have some jurors that are talking about the Karen Reed case, those that sat on the jurors as some of the 12, as well as there's one alternate that also made a statement out there that I saw the written version of that. So I thought we'd just go through some of these tonight and we could share comments about our impressions, thoughts, opinions. And I see you guys are talking about a Colorado case that, yeah, the Colorado wife goes missing on a bike ride on Mother's Day, and then they find a wrecked bike, but nothing else. And tranquilizer darts found in the couple's dryer. Her skeletal remains found. So this is one of my cousins in Colorado is telling me about. Like she knows some of the people that some of that family or something. So I'm pretty sure that's the one. So I may have to take a look at that one. But it's been several years ago that this happened. So yeah, if it's in Colorado, I think they would be filming it, right? So doing the live stream. So anyway, I was going to go ahead and start with the TMZ one. This is the first juror that came out, and so stand by. Here we go.
Found Karen Reed not guilty on murder and manslaughter. Was it because they had reasonable doubt or because they thought she was innocent?
So I think for the jurors, there's a mix of some people think that she was definitely innocent, and the other people there was a lot of reasonable doubt, at least to where we didn't want to convict her.
That's really interesting. So could you give me a breakdown there? Roughly what percentage of the jury felt she was innocent?
I mean, I can only speak for myself. I think that she was innocent.
That's
It's hard to tell exactly what people think deep down. There was a lot of things thrown at us.
I mean, that's what I was thinking. Is that if you got any one juror of the 12 thinking she's innocent, do you realize how ridiculous it was to take this to trial? Keep in mind, the first trial they didn't have a single juror that voted for second-degree murder, and they still kept that ridiculous, outrageous charge there. And they can't even prove the manslaughter here on the second trial. They couldn't prove it on the first. They had a cop on the jury that tricked all the jurors that were thinking that she must be guilty, and told the jurors to disregard all the defense witnesses, including Arca of all people. So anyway, that's just really amazing how this is an open and shut slam dunk case. If you have jurors that actually think that she's innocent,
Evidence. So it's hard to tell what truly.
So you say in your head she was innocent. Does that mean you think she was framed by people inside that house?
It doesn't necessarily mean that. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to John. Really,
they weren't worried about that. They were just worried about their duty as jurors. And I think also he doesn't want to say something out there where it could get him in trouble. So he's just going to stick to what he was told to focus on: is did the government prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt to the charges they levied against Karen Reed?
Only presented a limited scope of what happened at the night, and I could only base my opinion off of the evidence that was shown in the courtroom. So I don't really know if there was a cover-up or not. I know that's the big conspiracy about it, but I don't really know. All I know is that there was a lot of holes in the investigation.
Think about it. He also lives in that state. Yeah, you hadn't better say anything about the cops or against the DA's office.
Whether they were deliberate holes or not deliberate holes, it's kind of hard from me sitting back to know that, what actually happened.
So what was the feeling of the jury? Because Alan Jackson and the other lawyers raised the issue that she was framed by cops and that they would have turned that house upside down if they really wanted to do an honest investigation, and that he was not hit by a car. He was attacked in that house, bitten by a dog, and then put outside to frame her. Did people on the jury, or some of them, buy that argument?
I think some of them bought that argument. It's just hard to tell, though, because whether or not we think that there was malicious intent, we were only presented with the facts that they didn't go into the house. So, there's an example of reasonable doubt. So, like, there's other examples of reasonable doubt. So, even if you want to completely buy into the theory or not, that wasn't what we were tasked with. We were tasked with finding, convicting, or deciding on this person's fate based on the proof and the evidence that the Commonwealth was able to present. And there was a lot of holes in the investigation.
Yet you went many steps beyond that, because you say, in your view, she was innocent. What compels you to think that?
Well, one thing that I think that compels me is we did a lot of review of the tapes, and it seemed to me that the videos that we could see from the car after the alleged incident happened, that when we could see the taillight, it was lit up red where it shouldn't just have been red. So that leaves.
That's what we were all talking about. It's red. And the diffuser was there to make it red. And if the diffuser was gone, like they had at the Sally Port, the taillight wouldn't have been red at all, like we saw there.
To me, a conclusion of, well, how come it's red in this video after the alleged, collision happened, and then it's not. It doesn't have any red pieces where it should be red.
So, in other words, you do not believe that SUV made contact with John O'Keefe?
I don't believe that the SUV.
I mean, think about it. You should have no chance of this happening. As a prosecutor, you bring a case, you should have no chance of a juror thinking that not only is it beyond a reasonable doubt or not, and maybe it's a close bar, maybe you got to really have a really good case in chief and everything going really good, and the defense dropped the ball on some stuff to really have a chance of winning something. But that's if you have a close case. This wasn't even a close case. You have more than one juror saying they think Karen Reed not only is not guilty, but they think she's innocent. So this shows you how desperate and vindictive this prosecutor's office has been.
Collided with John O'Keefe.
What was the initial vote with the jury when you first took your vote?
We didn't do an initial straw poll. The judge recommended to us in the courtroom that is not a good way to do it. We broke down what we did is we broke down each charge, and we went from top to bottom and discussed everything thoroughly, and did our best to do right by the Karen Reed and the Commonwealth.
Was there a division initially?
Yeah, there was a division. But that's what we're there to deliberate and talk about all the evidence. There was 2 months of us sitting there, them throwing all this information at us absorbing the information, going home, thinking about it, reviewing it in our heads, and we get to the deliberations, and now we have an opportunity to discuss. Some people went into the deliberations and they were still unsure after two months, and that makes sense, because there was a lot of things going on. There's a lot of information. How much can you weigh one thing or another thing over? Yeah.
What about jurors who felt initially she was guilty? Were there any of them?
Yeah, there were a few jurors that think that had thought that initially when they went into the deliberations, that was their standpoint, and that's what we were there to do, to talk through all that and bring up every single piece of evidence. Is there an angle of reasonable doubt to where we're not really sure? Like, are you really sure? Are you 100%, or are you 99.9%? If you're that 99%, we can't convict you.
What brought the ones who felt she was guilty over to the not guilty side? Was there anything in particular that seemed to resonate with them?
It's hard to tell from my position. You'd have to ask them about it. But in my opinion, I think it was just due to the poor investigation. There's just too many holes, and it's hard to prove that the collision happened. So if there's reasonable doubt that happened, or that there may have been foul play, if there's room for that, then it's hard to come to a guilty verdict.
What happened when the jury initially said they had a verdict and then said, oops, no, we don't, and then 15 minutes later they said, oh, we do? What happened there?
So
Good question.
that actually is kind of interesting. So the envelope, it was sealed and it's locked away. It'll never be looked at. But on everything on that initial slip was the same as the slip that was presented.
But why did they pull it back?
The pulling the back was for the OUI charge.
There was driving under the influence, essentially, drunk driving.
Yes, driving under the influence. We
knew that.
In our deliberations, we had decided there was enough evidence and proof that she was driving under the influence. And
So, how did the defense do? How did the lawyers do, in your view? Her lawyers.
For her lawyers specifically, I think they all did. I think that all the lawyers on both sides did a really good job. They presented their case as well.
The police, you say the investigation was poor. The defense said it was more than poor. It was corrupt, and they pointed to the lead detective who had been fired, didn't testify in your trial. Did that have an impact? And did you think it was a corrupt police investigation?
They're not going to say that.
Do I think it was a corrupt police investigation? I don't know. There's no way for me to know. I wasn't there. There was just there was holes in the case that left for reasonable doubt. I think they could have checked some boxes or done some things differently. Yeah. But do I know that they were corrupt? Absolutely not. I don't know that there was any corruption going on. But do I know that there wasn't enough proof or evidence secured by the police to convict Karen Reed?
I'm just glad he's talking, because if we didn't have any jurors talking about this, then there's so much guessing about what really went on behind in that deliberation room. So here we got several that have come forward, so that's awesome to see, because we didn't have that in trial one. We just had that one guy, Ronnie, and I think the rest of them are probably embarrassed and ashamed that they got snookered by the foreman.
Absolutely not. There was not.
Fair to say that your view was that her SUV did not make contact with O'Keefe, therefore she did not kill him, but you don't know how he died.
I would say that's fair to say. I don't know how John O'Keefe died, and I do not believe that there was a collision between the SUV and John O'Keefe.
Jason, really appreciate the time. I do want to ask one other thing. Did all of the hoopla around the case, the people outside, did it give you comfort in reaching a verdict like this, that you saw there was a community behind your point of view, or was it irrelevant?
Honestly, that made the pressure a lot harder, and it did not give me comfort. It made it a lot harder to block out everything and come to a decision.
Why did it make it harder?
It made it harder because all of the eyes are on us. We were told we're the most important people in the courtroom, and they keep us away from the crowds of people in the front of the courthouse, but we do see them, and I don't think that having all those people swayed me to go either way. We were only
That's
tasked
good.
with looking at the evidence. We were 12 jurors. We had to back up how we felt in this, for our decision.
Can you imagine if they felt the pressure of the state to just do whatever the prosecutor says? Nobody's safe at that point. We're basically in a police state.
And we couldn't let any outside factors, her punishment, we couldn't factor any of that. We had to look at the evidence that was presented to us, absorb it, really understand it, and see if there's any reasonable doubt. And there was.
Jason, thank you so much for spending some time and breaking this down. Appreciate it. Jason, the jury.
All right, so that was the first one that came out, and then we saw this other one. She's a lawyer from Brazil. She's a mom of 4. This is juror 11. And she's with the NBC affiliate there who watched the trial.
Tell me about your feeling when you
Sound
found
isn't
out
the
that you
best.
were going to be on the jury, when you went to your voir dire in jury selection and they picked you to be on this jury. How did you feel?
When I was in the room, when I received the letter, I liked the idea because I never been a juror before. I wanted to know how the process is. For me, it was like a 1-2 day thing. It's going to be fun to do it. When the judge said, "Oh, it might take 8 weeks," I was like, "Wow, I hope I'm not selected." And once I was selected, I had to run. All I could think was the logistics of everything. So I just want to run home and make phone calls to arrange everything. But I was excited. I was happy to be part of the process. I had no clue it was that big. It was a mediatic case. I had no clue to get a lot of attention. But I did like the idea of being part of something that big and important.
Can you tell me what you knew about the case? Of course, the understanding is that you don't have to be ignorant of the case. You just have to not have an opinion formed, right? And be open-minded and evaluate the evidence in the courtroom. So what did you know about the Karen Reed case before you started hearing
I'm
about
aware of the.
I know
couple other
she
interviews.
had a billboard on Route 1. Every time I go grocery shop, I see Free Karen Reed. That's all I knew about her and her name. I also saw some lounge that has signs Free Karen Reed, but didn't strike me to go search and understand what it was. So I had no clue what crime or what she did, who she was, who John was, nothing. I really didn't know. And I never heard about those supporters, the big crowd she has. I learned that the pink was her color, like mid-trial. So I stopped wearing pink because I had a lot of pink shirts and I don't want to give it the wrong vibe. I didn't really know. I don't watch local news. I don't watch television. I had a pause on social media, and whatever I have on social media, my X account is my last post is 2022. My Instagram post is last one was last year. So I just didn't have access to what was going on here. I'm more interested in international news, Brazilian news, and that was it.
Can we talk about your background a little bit? Because I called you the expressive juror, because the jurors I thought generally were very stoic, took a lot of notes, a lot of heads down. You took a lot of notes. But as the trial went on, your expressions became a little bit more obvious. I know that you were controlling them because I could see you. I also couldn't read what you were reacting to. Like if it was, sometimes you'd have the same look going back and forth between the lawyer and the witness.
Yeah, we can get to that
Can you
tonight.
talk about your background?
Yes, I have a law degree from Brazil. I'm licensed to work in Brazil. I graduated in 2010, and then right after, a year and a half after, I moved to the States to study, to learn English. I didn't know any English before I got here, and I never worked again as a lawyer. I just help some colleagues I have in Brazil with some cases. Sometimes I can do a petition from here. I still know how to write and think like a lawyer. And I also have an MBA in marketing because my life is here now. And
That's interesting that they allowed an attorney to be on there. And I guess she's not a criminal law specialist or anything. So the same kind of thing with cops. You don't have cops on the jury. I would not want to have an attorney on the jury because they may have too much control over the others and try to, just like the Foreman and jury one did, that they say, hey, this is not the way it works, this is what's really going on, and the jurors will believe them over anything else, and as an insider. So I'm surprised they left her on there, but you can tell she's obviously very very sharp, doesn't appear biased, didn't really know anything about it. So she doesn't appear to be involved in any kind of criminal law work there in Massachusetts.
And I want to do something professionally after my kids grow a little bit. So I combine marketing with my law degree, and I work with the Brazilian law offices to do their digital marketing, the social media, and those things. Another reason why I was involved with the social media, but all in Brazil. Everything I saw was all in Brazil, was never here.
When you reached out to me, you indicated that, I don't want to put words in your mouth, and I don't remember exactly, but it was surprising to you what people were thinking about the case after you were able to plug back in to the world about the case. What are some of the misconceptions you think people out there have that you've seen? And is there anything that they're getting right?
Some people got things right. I reached out to you because I thought you had a good impression of us. I choose the journalists I want to talk to. More people came on away, but I didn't have a chance to look to all the media and all the news about us. I just look on X, and I start, as soon as we get back.
I don't know why she's getting into all this. Tell us what happened on the jury.
In a room after we give the verdict, I just open my X account, old, and I started to following everybody. I didn't know your name. I didn't know anybody's name. So we start to guessing who.
I'm going to jump ahead.
You don't know. Oh, the juror is my cousin. He said X, Y, and Z. No, your cousin wasn't there. So I read a lot of this.
And you felt like you wanted to just get the record straight, that your experience as the juror did not match what was happening on social media.
No, we never send a note to the judge before the deliberation. We never complain. We are a very happy group of people, fulfilling our duty, and that's it.
So I know that I kept posting that it's very different watching the trial and then being in the courtroom. Very different experience. So people would react to the judge's heavy size or a witness's heavy size, which I know you didn't hear because I didn't hear, and there's no amplification in the courtroom. But one thing people, and I think that I went ahead and projected onto you, plural, it was quick, and you all.
And we even said that to the judge. System is, and we do, not just me, everybody does. We understand it's part of it. So we like the sidebars, and I can speak for all of us. We like it.
Likes this more sidebars.
Yes, because we can stretch, we stop. We didn't like when she says, "Oh, we're gonna get here 8:30, and then we're gonna get inside at 9:30."
Well,
didn't make sense. Or they get late, too long of a lunch break because they need to do the sidebars. So I guess the sidebars without us, we didn't like much because we want to get going. But the sidebars with us inside the court.
Well, it's good they speak out too, because if they have some of these folks that are attacking them, saying they're stupid, and they obviously didn't follow the instructions, they didn't see the evidence properly, and all that kind of stuff. It's about time they come out and defend their decisions and show that they really did take it seriously, and they can explain why the prosecution utterly failed.
We are okay with it.
What about this? Is just a personal question for how people relate it. I know that I can't sit for 10 minutes without my phone, right? I can't pick up,
Okay, well, how about talking about what the juror needs?
Not having information.
We're all very.
I think I learned it's because it was a thick document. And another thought was because of that, because the three of us just start laughing. Me and juror 4, that's also speaking.
And
Jason, yes. And the other lady between us. So was because of that. Like sometimes, and we try not. Some witnesses show or said something that was so absurd, or some interactions between lawyers and the witness was a bit rude. So we have to keep together, be quiet, but something very entertaining.
Tell me, it's a workplace basically too. So things happen that you
My
end up
gosh,
having
she's
a
bad.
Aside because we are yelling to how big the family means, and the Commonwealth didn't prove that to us. So it's still. I feel super happy that she got justice and she's going to live her life, and I hope she have a great life ahead of her. And I feel extremely upset and frustrated that John O'Keefe's family, his mom, his father, who were there, his brother, they gonna still hanging on the question who killed John O'Keefe and what's gonna happen for now. I don't know. I know there is a civil case that can come up now. I don't know if the I don't know if the DA said anything, or Mr. Breno. I didn't hear from anybody. But I really hope this case can be reopened and they can investigate it and find who killed John O'Keefe.
Who do you hold responsible?
I can't hold anybody responsible because the same way I did not convict Karen Reed because I didn't have proof of her being participating of his death. I cannot say another people did. But I do have my suspicions, and I already spoke about this, that something happened inside the house, and that I find very fishy that Brian Higgins and Brian Alberts and the rest of the family were investigated. I'm not even talking about the guests of the party at that night. They were guests. But there was a moment in the court that a picture of the front of the house was shown to us, and they had to take us out of the courtroom to cover the garage door. And I wonder, why can't we see the garage door? Why Dr. La Posada couldn't speak about what she saw
there you go.
in the pictures?
There you go. See, as I said many times, you can't hide the ball from the jury and expect them to trust you. And if they don't trust you, you shouldn't be winning the case, especially a case where you don't have any evidence. So it's all smoke and mirrors and deception. How despicable is that?
This was objected, so it wasn't on the record, I think. But she said something about, I saw real estate pictures. She said in court, and then objected, and we needed to not consider that question. But
see, that's one reason I wouldn't have an attorney on there, because she's picking up on what the motive is behind the objections better than maybe a lay person would. But good for her. Glad she was on it.
Once the word is out, I wonder what was inside the house that we couldn't hear about it, or why we couldn't see the picture of the garage.
It's such a challenge to be told that it's objected and sustained, and don't think about it, or it's, we're going to strike it from the record, forget that we just said.
Okay, can she testify?
That it does seem like an absurd way to.
What she had done there as a juror, this is.
I mean, and that's for every trial. It seems like an absurd way to run a trial.
Yeah. We did not consider that information when we're deliberating, of course, but still in my head now, and I want to know what happened at the garage.
It has to do with credibility. If you don't trust somebody because they're blocking good questions and blocking photos of what the garage looked like, you can't trust somebody like that. It's just common
what
sense.
happened inside the house? Why that people never came out? Why? What Brian Higgins was doing at 2 a.m., 1 a.m. at the police station?
Let's talk about the cases a little bit. When the prosecution rested, what was the narrative? What was the point that you believe the Commonwealth was trying to convince you of?
What?
If I had to tell you ask you what the prosecution's argument was to you, what would you say it was?
That's a strange question, but go ahead.
Well, they want to convince us that she back up her car fast enough to clip him, taillight cut his arm, and throw him away. He hits his floor on a frozen lawn and died. That's it. And she saw everything and left.
Are you trying to test her, see if she's paying attention to Brennan?
The scene.
Were there any witnesses for the prosecution that you felt did a good job moving that narrative forward and proving that?
No, because just the eyewitness could say all that. And that case was Jim McCable was the only one we heard. And we couldn't believe everything she was saying. Her story was very credible, was very well said. I think that's the expression. But didn't make much sense. It's like if she was coached. Mm-hmm. I think some of the jurors felt the same way.
What about any of the expert witnesses for the Commonwealth? Were there any that you think did a good job, and who do you think just did a bad job?
Bad job, clearly. They're calling him Blue Man.
Yeah.
Welcher, Dr.
Blue
Welcher.
Man.
I mean, without my
she knows it. I mean, they're even laughing at this joke.
Respect to his work and his job.
The $400,000 joke.
I don't think he was trying to hide something or convince us of something. I just think he didn't do a good job. That's it. Maybe he's businesses needed to step it up in the game and learn a little more techniques, spend some more money on things that actually matter than buy a new Lexus. So yeah, it was.
She's being nice to him. She doesn't want to get in trouble for saying something about that business.
To me, felt like a joke, that video that they presented to us to prove that John Keefe was hit by a car.
A joke. See, the blue man was a joke. They got it, folks. This wasn't a scientific test. It wasn't a test on physics. It absolutely was a laughable joke to the jury.
I mean, okay, I can put my arm in here and just wait for a 2-mile car come. Anyone can do this, and you pay almost $400,000 for that person. So that felt, to me, I felt very uncomfortable. So yeah, his colleague, Mr. Shannon. I really don't care about his degree. Everybody's talking about how many years to complete a degree or whatever. He has experience. He's been working with this company for 8 years, according to his profile. He made some mistakes, okay. But, adding Mr. Welcher and him together and the amount of money who was paid for them to do a great job, I don't think they did. And the credible witnesses, the lab, the forensic expertise, the scientists, the DNA people, the people who check his shirt or piece of DNA on the taillight or not, all this, the people from the state, from the Massachusetts State Police Lab, all of them, I think they work with what was given to them. And they did a good job. I didn't feel they were lying or trying to make up information for us.
And so what about the defense? Who do you think did a good job on the defense side and for making the case, and who do you think didn't help or made it worse?
I don't think anybody on the defense side made it worse. They just corroborate for the things we have listened prior. Dr. La Posada, for me, was very good, and the ARCA witness. I now know that they didn't want us to hear the ARCA professionals. They made it just clear and easy for a regular person like me to understand what really happened with data, with the videos, with the dummy, what the weight of the dummy. That discussion was so unnecessary. Also, Officer Dever, which we can't say her name wrong. She gets really upset. Officer Dever was...
That's true. She remembers
scary, to say the least, because, I mean, I can see
she says a cop that worked at Denton Police Department was scary as a witness. That's the kind of stuff we were saying. To think someone would be that combative in a trial, a murder trial of all things, and you're just shooting off the mouth and coming up with some wild false memory stories.
Might be a little immature. She's young. She looks young and new in the police force, but she sold a vibe of being so desperate and angry to everyone, like a child complaining and fighting with their mom. I mean, I just feel like unsafe to have a person with that level of immaturity carrying a gun among us.
She didn't even trust her to carry a gun. That's how scary this Dever was to this juror.
What was your reaction or impression? There were, as you said, there were some state police lab people, there were some state troopers that gave very good testimony, but Yuri Buchanan, who seemed to me as one person when the Commonwealth was interviewing him and questioning him, and then someone else when the defense was.
Why don't you let her just tell her impressions instead of giving? We don't need to know yours, interviewer.
What was your reaction to Trooper Buchanan's testimony?
I don't get this.
With him, I was very close to him, like 2 seats away from him, and sometimes I could see him like making a fist, and he was really uncomfortable with some questions, and the sarcastic comments between him and Alan Jackson, entertaining. Felt to me that he was very protective of his job and his colleagues. So this blue wall that I'm learning now what that means. He's probably like a good representative of the blue wall, I think.
And,
oh, wow. She's talking about the blue wall. That's amazing. A juror actually mentions the blue wall, and she lives there. And she's not from the United States. She's from Brazil. So that's gutsy of her.
Trooper Michael Proctor, who was all over the trial but never appeared. Did you have some sort of image or story about him in your head?
So who is Michael Proctor? Like, I didn't know. I still don't know. I know he gave an interview last night. I'm dying to watch. I don't know. I can't put a name and a face together. All the times in my notebooks, I have Michael Proctor, question mark. Where's Michael Proctor? I don't know who he was. I learned he was fired during the trial. Some of the witness or lawyers comment. I said, okay, so maybe he's not going to show up because he was fired. And everything he did was bring other troops are bringing up to us. But we didn't know who he was, like as a person.
How did that impact your deliberations for you personally?
I didn't mind not seeing him because he was already fired and everybody else did a good job of bringing his role in investigation to us. I did mind not hear from Brian Higgins and Brian Halbert. I think they should be there.
Did you?
And I said that also, like Higgins and Brian Albert would be great to show the face of who these culprits they're wanting to point the finger at look like. But I thought for sure Brian Albert was the best of the two. So at a minimum, I would have called him. But, you know, they didn't need him. As it turns out, they didn't need him. The jury is curious about him. And if they're curious about somebody, what they're really about, that helps feed the reasonable doubt in their minds as well.
When the defense called Proctor's friend to read the texts, the offensive texts, in the last trial, Trooper Proctor testified and he had to read them. And at one point saying the C word, the judge told him, those are your words, you have to say them. And the jury was shocked by it. And observers now say it didn't seem that it had the same impact. How was your reaction to hearing the text messages that former Trooper Proctor sent to his friends?
There was some wording that make me feel disgusted and upset. It's not that you don't have the same reaction if it was him reading. It's like just like Karen Reed and Brian Higgins text message. If it was him reading or her, it's not about who is reading. It's about the content. Okay, at that point when that friend came and read all the text messages, we already knew that Michael Proctor was a police officer who was fired, who was being accused of corruption or framed Karen Reed, whatever. So we already expected something.
Hey, that's good. She gets all these points. She hasn't forgotten about them. They're in the back of her mind. Everything was flowing through Proctor.
Something bad would come from this guy. So that's why I think you didn't see a shocking face, a shocking expression on her face.
She's heard it by now.
But was disgusting, was unprofessional, and just make me think what else, what other cases could be judged like this based on the person appearance or relationship or demeanor, I don't know.
Now, this is a little bit of a biased question because you have law training, but looking at the lawyers.
I'm not the only one.
Who do you think did the best job, even if they didn't win the case, even if who would you look forward to getting up to be to ask the questions or do the direct or the cross? Was there one lawyer that you'd be like, oh, this will be interesting? Or I like watching?
I like watching all of them. I like Brennan. The beginning.
Special Prosecutor
Hank Brennan, yes. I think he have a bad case. He had the investigation full of holes and he have to convict her with what he have.
Well, see, that's what he shouldn't be doing. If you have a bad case, you don't have to pursue conviction. He should have said, no, you know what? This is a bad case. I'm not taking this trial. I don't care how much money you throw my way, Morrissey. I am not taking an ash and trash case to court that actually exonerates her. The evidence actually exonerates her.
I didn't like the way he acted at the end. He felt like he was a little desperate or angry, showing some signs of disrespect. But his name's
How about Robert Alessi?
Robert Alessi, yes. This is my favorite lawyer because I think the way he talks, like such a gentleman, so kind. At the same time, he's crashing a witness with information. So it was very interesting to watch.
And that's why I was saying I thought Alessi would have been my choice to do the closing. And a lot of people in the courtroom saying, oh, the jurors really respond to Alan Jackson, they seem to really follow him and what he's saying in the courtroom, which is fine. I mean, he had a phenomenal closing. So, but I'm telling you, there's something about Alessi that his conviction and character and his ability to talk fast. We've seen he can talk fast and he can really talk passionately. I think of any of the ones, he speaks more from the heart, and that's what I look for, I guess, in trial advocacy. The ones that I prefer the most are ones that speak with the most heart and conviction. So anyway, that's just my personal preference, but like I say, it doesn't matter. And
We had a theory for folks who we thought on the jury who looked like they liked watching Robert Alessi. People watching at home would say, "Oh my God, this is boring. This is terrible." And I actually commented that I thought after you saw Bob Alessi a couple of times, you knew if you just stayed with him, there would be a payoff, right? So like the weather,
Yeah.
the weather, what are we getting to? And finally there was a payoff,
Yeah.
right?
Definitely repetitive, trying to get there, but he was trying to get the right information to us in a way we could understand, and we all appreciate that. So made the technical information easy, the technical witnesses smoother for us to listen to.
And did you know that Alan Jackson was the LA lawyer? Did you have any feelings about watching him? And
Wednesday night after I got home, my uncle, who is an attorney, and we used to live in California, he said that he's a Hollywood lawyer. I said, great, let me look up. And that was it. Because as soon as I finish everything, I just want to follow everybody and start following everyone that was in the trial. But I didn't know, never heard his name before, but I heard he's one of the best lawyers in the country. So what a pleasure to watch him working.
And David Yannetti?
Didn't know before. He didn't take the podium that much, but when he did, he got our attention. He very articulated, and overall, to me, was very interesting having the opportunity to watch these people working and make justice.
What do you hope the message from this trial is? Is there something you hope will change? Is there something you hope people who have plugged in, this is entertainment to some people, understandably, but someone died, someone was on trial for murder, families were broken, communities are broken. As you said, there's no justice for John O'Keefe yet. What's something you hope either changes and/or people take away from this experience?
I think if the community in general were able to get together and gather information and support and financial help for Karen Reed in this case, if they were able to do this for her, I think we now have to do the same thing for John O'Keefe and John O'Keefe's family. Corruption, it's not Michael Proctor is a cancer, corruption is a cancer. And I'm from a Latin country. We know Brazil, we had many cases with corruption. I'm from Rio de Janeiro, is one of the most dangerous places in Brazil. And it speaks to me, this case, because
I once had some neighbors from Brazil, and they were talking about how they couldn't even drive home and unload their groceries from the house without high risk of being robbed. It was that dangerous down there.
It's injustice, it's police, corruption, and how many people are in jail right now because of a bad investigation, because of a bias of a police officer or investigator, because of a bad system, because of lack of money to have good lawyers like Alan Jackson's, Bob Alessi, and David Yannetti. So, and Dr. Leroy, I don't want to forget her. She was very spot on. She didn't take the stand, but she was always there with the documents. Like, we found her work incredible. So the message is, let's continue fight for justice for John O'Keefe. We cannot let corruption run the country in any level, police level, government level. We have the power. We are people, we have the power, and we have to use this power. We need to get away of fake news, get away of no-sense social media, look for the root of the problem, look for real journalists, real news, real information, and fight, and continue fighting, continue complaining, and protest, and do what needs to be done for a better society. I have young children, so I wanted them to grow up in a better place, in a safer place.
Great person, great mom, you can tell, and a great juror here. So grateful she was on this jury.
A message for the news media?
Please, don't lie. Don't create stories. And make people confused and make one side against another angry and create unnecessary fights, unnecessary discussion. Why are we discussing? We are online arguing, wasting our times about the seat of Paul O'Keefe, you know, why is that relevant? A person died and other one's about to go to jail for no reason. Be more responsible, and it doesn't worth it for you guys to get a word and the news out there and the likes for it if it's not true.
And what about social media users? Do you have a word for them?
Look for good journalists. Go to court, go see yourself, you know, watch the TV court 7 hours trial and make your own conclusions. Don't just listen from other people.
Do you have anything else that I missed? Anything you want to say that I didn't cover?
No, it's all good. I just want to, again, I come out to talk about this because I just wanted the O'Keefe family know that it's not our fault. We don't want John O'Keefe to we don't want his case to die. None of us, I can speak for all the jurors, we all felt really bad for the family. We all believe John was a great man, and we all want the justice to be served to him too and his family. And the right person goes pay for this, because a person died, and whoever did or whatever happened need to come out.
Well, thank you for reaching out to me.
Yeah.
I'm really thrilled to meet you after watching you for 40 days too.
Yeah.
They need to go after the real killer.
I like I said, I choose the people I want to talk to. You were one of them because I saw your reports. I couldn't see everything, but from what I saw, you have like a true impression of us. You were more spot on. You really saw us for you really report what was happening there. Wasn't just like creating stories for likes. So that's why I reached out.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so that is done there. And then let's go to this other one here. Here's one other juror went into deliberations leaning towards guilty. We don't know guilty of what, but I assume manslaughter at least. I don't think anybody even took seriously that second degree.
Like the first two jurors that we've heard from who rendered their verdict of not guilty for Karen Read, this one, juror number 12, says during those 20 hours of deliberations, she changed her mind.
I felt like if they didn't pick me, they'd be fools because I didn't know anything about this case.
Personal trainer Janet Jimenez says before this second trial of Karen Read, one of her clients had mentioned the case, but she says other than that, she'd never heard of it. When she was picked to be juror number 12, she suddenly had a front row seat.
I couldn't help but see her because I was right. I mean, I think I had the best view in the house. She was right there. The defense was right there.
Did you form any impressions of her?
No, like I said, I knew nothing about her.
Jimenez says she filled a notebook and a half as she listened to witnesses and studied evidence over 8 weeks. She says when it came time for deliberations, she was open to listening to what the other 11 jurors had to say.
I was hoping that my fellow jurors could help me to go through all of this. So I went in with a very open mind, but definitely leaning toward that she was guilty.
Jimenez says what changed her mind is when she went looking for something in the more than 200 pieces of evidence. She won't say what that something was, but says she didn't find it.
And it was one big part that led me closer to there's a lot of doubt here.
Jimenez says there were holes in the investigation, but she stopped short of saying she believes someone else killed John O'Keefe or that there was a police cover-up.
I'm not there to say the defense's story was right or wrong. Do you know what I'm saying? Because there could have been other circumstances that happened. So I think there was things that we saw, that things that we heard, the evidence that could have fit that scenario. So again, that's the whole doubt thing.
Knows her
Jimenez
job.
says there is one part of the defense story that she did not buy, what that was and what she thought about the crowds outside, coming up tonight at 6. Live in Medfield, David Beanick, WCVB News Center.
All right, so that's all we have on that one. I'm going to get to the ABC interview with some of the folks there at 34 Fairview. But here, let me show this first. This we got from juror 17. It was an alternate. There was an interview with this Johnson DePetro or something. He was a really anti-Karen Reed guy. And this was posted, I guess, somewhere on one of his social media channels, but then it got removed and somebody was able to save it. So she obviously can't speak for what the 12 ultimate deliberators were told. As far as being an alternate, she felt let down when her number was called. She says, I would have voted not guilty for all charges except for maybe the OUI. I think she was drunk in the morning. They tested her in the arm or in the AM, but that doesn't prove she was drunk when she left the bar because she easily could have gone home and drank. So that sort of sounds like reasonable doubt there too. But how's Hank Brennan? He was very focused, very determined. He did a great job in crossing Sergeant Burroughs. He definitely tripped him up and got him confused on the pictures. But at times, Hank came across as just rude, saying over here to witnesses way over the line. And the thing with the holes in the back of the hoodie, that was really hurt his credibility. Like I said, it all comes down to credibility. And you can't be rude and not have credibility with jurors deciding your case and voting on it. How was blue paint? Honestly, my head was spinning. I thought it was a joke. I couldn't believe a forensic expert, quote unquote, would do something so silly. All I did was demonstrate that if you intentionally put your bare skin against wet paint, the paint will transfer to your skin. So that's what they got out of $400,000. I don't know how anyone could think that was a smart thing for the prosecution to show. Well, when you're desperate, you got to come up with something to try to counter Arca, no matter how ridiculous it is. I think is their mindset. What's wrong with the case? There was some glaring holes to the prosecution, to name just a few. Hank kept portraying Karen Reed's statements at the scene as an admission, but that doesn't add up. If Karen Reed admitted to killing a cop, why didn't any of the cops at the scene arrest her or even detain and question her, put it in their reports? If there's an officer down, there's a woman yelling her admission for emergency responders to hear, but by coincidence, not a single cop heard or thought to write it down. That's odd, right? And that's what we were saying. It's like this doesn't make any sense. They're adding and stretching the number of times she said it, how she said it. Number two, no consistent explanation for injuries. This is major, of course, for anybody looking at this case. Then she goes on, no medical doctors would say that the car was involved. If he was on the lawn from 12:30 to 6 a.m., where was the frostbite? Hey, I had a video on one of those on that issue alone. I think a short that my brother John put up. The state just ignored this. Why? I'm not a true crime guy. I don't know about other murder trials, but maybe you do, John. Is it normal for the state to charge someone with murder when their own medical examiner won't call it a homicide? Is it normal for the state not to call the main detective? Now consider, is it normal for both those things to happen in a murder trial? Common sense would suggest no way. That's massive doubt. There you go. A massive all caps. So there you go. You had no chance of winning this case. None whatsoever. Is an absolute propped up fraud. What did the defense do well? Defense did a good job establishing reasonable doubt, especially with Trooper Buchanan. He was so defensive. I kept asking myself, why are the police so defensive and evasive here and not just Buchanan? Who are good witnesses? The scientists from ARCA were convincing, and when they were cross-examined, they didn't get defensive or snippy. Contrast that with so many witnesses for the prosecution. Brian Loughran, that's a snowplow driver, was maybe the most convincing, at least for me. I was born in Norwood when JFK was president, and I've lived in Massachusetts my whole life. I've shoveled more driveways than I care to remember, haha. If there was a body laying in an inch or two of snow just off the road, there's no way a plow driver would miss it, right? Unless a plow driver was drunk or had skipped his route, and we obviously know that wasn't the case for Lucky. Who were the bad witnesses? First one she mentioned is Jen McCabe. Too many things didn't make sense, especially she forgot who she called when those other agents asked her. Carrie Roberts, she kind of admitted to lying at the grand jury. She said she didn't do it on purpose, but still, it made me wonder, why is the state calling someone who lied at the grand jury? The Boston cop, Dever, she didn't want to answer anything, all caps, haha. That's kind of funny in hindsight, but at the time it made me think, Why is a policeman so reluctant to say whether or not there were cameras at the police station? How are the Karen clips to you? I didn't give much weight. The police didn't do anything with their contemporaneous statements that morning. So what would years later, in my opinion, that's what Hank didn't get. He thought that all these interviews were going to be absolutely damaged to Karen. Someone didn't sound good, but if you don't know the context, what's the jury supposed to think of it other than you're trying to trick them? And again, it goes to your credibility as a prosecutor. You're going to lose it. You're going to lose your credibility doing all these things. And then how do you think John died? I don't know. But what I do know is that the state could not back up their theory. For heck's sake, Hank even said something like, we don't know what happened, but we could have a good idea. I wrote that down at the time. I thought, yikes, we have a good idea. He was even bringing that up against the last expert, the ARCA witness, Rentschler. The state needs more. I'm adding that last comment, by the way. The state needs more than a good idea to convict for murder, right? There was an ocean of reasonable doubt to me. None of the injuries added up to the state's suggestion. If he had been drilled by the car, he would have had more injuries. Common sense. You don't need a doctor to testify to that. If he was just clipped and spun around and stumbled and fell on the lawn, he wouldn't have fallen hard enough to crack his head open. But what'd you hear? The prosecutor kept on arguing the rock hard ground, the solid frozen hard ground. He kept on trying to make a grassy lawn is going to have that kind of a impact on somebody falling down. It's just not credible or believable. All right, they never can reconcile that for me. They just seem to leave it open, like maybe it was a combo of those strikes. And then there's the marks on the arm. To me, it was extremely unlikely you could have such parallel lines in the chaos of shattered tail light. That's what we've been saying, and that's what the expert was saying on there, Dr. Russell, as well as the Lapizzato, Dr. Lapizzato, the forensic pathologist. But most of all, how could there be no trace of John on any all caps pieces? Dozens of taillight pieces scratched, gouged skin, yet not a single taillight piece had any human material on it. More doubt. It honestly, let's see here. Thought I had it cuts off right there. I thought I had a third page, but let me see if I have it somewhere else. I'll just read it off here. Stand by. Oh yeah. It honestly would have been more believable if they said Karen got out of her car with a hammer and attacked John. We've said that before as well. They took a bat. I think I said a bat or a hammer or something like that. I said it looked like a hammer went to the back of his head. The claw parts of the hammer could have made those arm marks, and the ball part could have cracked his skull. On the Lexus data backing up was a question. I'm not sure what weight to give the Lexus data. That's something I was saying. It's like that stuff is like too much susceptible to computer discombobulation. Example, the 75% accelerator pedal. Interesting, yes. But there were no definitive time link to it because of the conflicting theories of time drift. And speaking of drift, Mr. Burgess's graduation date drifted quite a bit. Man, that was tough to watch. Cell phone temperature for John's phone, ? State essentially said maybe it was under John's shoulder outside all night. Defense said maybe it was in the garage from 12:30 to 5 a.m. Competing maybes equals stout. Hank said she backed up, hit him, and left him. Why was he wrong? We never got any real evidence of a collision. Again, no medical doctor has said he had injuries consistent with a vehicle strike. Yes, Hank said she hit him. Okay, but Hank's statements aren't evidence. Lawyers say lots of things. Can't take what either side lawyers say at face value. What do you think of Dr. Wolf, the brain surgeon? Super accomplished guy, very slick. Made me think of the Rat Pack cavorting in Miami. Didn't help prove a collision, though. So that was the end of her statements there. And All right, so now let's see. Yeah, Mr. Marshall, you're saying any person, honest person from Massachusetts knows the state police are not honest. They try to cover up for one of their own that had an affair with a 15-year-old girl. Yeah, well, I would not. It wasn't just the state police. It was the Canton. It was actually the Canton Police Department as well, because it happened in Canton. So anyway, let's go now to. I've only seen like a few seconds of this, so this is going to be hard for me to watch. This PR spin going on here.
The criminal justice system has let us down at every turn, and yesterday was the final letdown.
Well, how about you at 34 Fairview when you had a fellow officer laying on your front yard, and you're going to blame the criminal justice system? Really? Do they know that you hired a lawyer and had a lawyer representing you when you testified each time? You didn't have to testify this time, but you would have had your lawyer there as well. Is your lawyer here with you now?
And that's why we're here, because there's nobody left to stand up for us.
Oh, okay. What you did? You ran out of money to pay for your attorney? Your attorney's been standing up for you this whole time.
Real long and hard before you're a witness in a case, because no one protects you.
Well, how about if you just go out and when there's all kinds of commotion out in your front yard, and you hear a vehicle revving up in reverse and driving through the snow and making all that noise, if it happened, obviously you'd go outside, look and run to see what happened. Maybe if you would have checked up on John and Karen when they're invited over to your house, maybe if you checked to see where your guests were that you knew were expected to be at your house.
And it's very.
Where was your dog? What happened to your dog that night? Why wasn't she barking with all that commotion?
For the first time, some of the key players in the Karen Reed trial sitting down for an exclusive interview.
Key players, all right.
His friend, Jennifer McCabe, and her husband, Matt, former Boston police sergeant.
Yeah, Matt, the one that said, don't tell media that the guy went into the house. And also, what did he say? If she pleads, it'll be over quick. And if she doesn't, it's going to be, I forget the words exactly, but it's going to be horrendous or something.
Brian Albert and his wife, Nicole, and his brother, Chris Albert, all five of them pulled into the center of this high-profile case and now speaking out.
Yeah, they all need to support each other because they need to have try to have the things they did that were not the right things by John O'Keefe. They're trying to clear their conscience here, but it's not going to work.
And I think the reason we all stayed quiet is because we were just witnesses. This is.
Yeah. Witnesses to John O'Keefe laying out in the front yard. And Jen McCabe not calling and hollering up there for a first responder, Brian Albert of the Boston Police Department, to come on out in his front yard and see what's going on. And, oh, by the way, are you guys okay in the house? There's a reason why you don't holler and see what's going on in the house and why the house is all dark. Any reasonable person would have thought, you know what? Are they dead inside too?
A thing that we had nothing to do with.
We did the civic duty, came and told the truth, and that's it.
Civic duty? How did you do civic duty to John O'Keefe again? You let a guy die in your front yard and never came out.
Free Karen Reed! It's the case that has captivated the country and divided a town. Karen Reed, accused of killing her Boston police officer boyfriend, John O'Keefe, hitting him with her SUV and leaving him to die in a blizzard.
Not guilty. Not guilty.
Now, after a second trial, a jury acquitting her of the most serious charges, second-degree murder and manslaughter. And hundreds of supporters in pink, Karen Reed's favorite color, cheering as the verdict came down yesterday.
I could not be.
They probably interviewed him while the deliberations are going on, is my guess. sometime during the trial. So no matter how it turned out, they were going to film it.
Standing here without these amazing supporters.
People turn this thing into a tailgate party, it looked like some days. Board games, cornhole, cookouts. This is a guy that was murdered. And it's atrocious for that family.
While the
Oh my gosh. If he had that kind of energy and commitment and passion for John O'Keefe in his front yard, that'd have been awesome.
prosecutors blamed Reed for O'Keefe's death, the defense said this group of family members framed Reed to cover up what really happened that night. Ever since, their lives becoming open season for endless conspiracy theories.
What they've done is they've dehumanized us to the sense where we're not real people. We're almost like caricatures. We're pawns.
Oh, so that's why you got on here, to try to humanize yourself. They've already seen your testimony. So maybe people are going by your testimonies.
Have each of you been called murderers? Like actual murderers?
Oh, yeah, on a daily basis.
Anybody who's touched this case has been called a murderer at some point.
And anyone who's friends with us.
Yeah, you're laughing about it, Matt. So what's so funny about that, huh? So there's nothing suspicious about your text messages? Really? The fact that you guys have to hire a lawyer every time you guys talk to either the jury or the grand juries?
Court cop killers.
After 3+ years, the saga wrapped up yesterday. Reed captured celebrating at dinner with her father, and today seen walking with her attorney, Alan Jackson.
I didn't even know I'd be here today, so I had no plans.
Yep.
Meanwhile, O'Keefe's family and friends struggling with the verdict.
I'm just sad for John's family and what happened yesterday, and I feel like they didn't get justice for him, and our lives just changed forever.
Why speak out now after the verdict?
Well, yeah, your lives did change forever when you don't do anything to help a guy die in your front yard. And something happens to your dog is suddenly not there to bark and alert you guys to a guy dying in your front yard. Then you get rid of the house. There's all kinds of stuff they did. Your husband got rid of his phone suddenly right before the preservation order came out the day before. What about all the butt dials? Really?
We took what we thought was the high road. Right. Let the court do its job.
After a night of
The high road? Okay. None of the stuff I'm asking you about is about a high road, right?
hanging out at a local bar in a brutal 2022 blizzard, Brian and his wife Nicole hosted a late-night gathering at their home. An invitation had been extended to Reed and O'Keefe, but Brian Albert says neither of them ever entered his home that night. O'Keefe was found lying unconscious in the snow of Albert's front lawn. He was
who's the person that Higgins mentioned came into the house? Taller person with dark hair, or however it was described.
pronounced dead at the hospital hours later. The defense's theory? A violent altercation at the Alberts' home, possibly involving other members of law enforcement.
Did John ever come in the house?
Never. No.
You never saw John O'Keefe in the house, right?
Never.
Never. Never.
These are people in your
Okay, so they didn't think they'd be asked that question?
own community who believe the conspiracy theories, who believe that there were other law enforcement officials and agents involved in this.
Why don't you ask them, why do they get lawyers? Spend hour after hour after hour on attorney's fees, high-priced attorneys, some of the highest-priced attorneys in Massachusetts. But they're just bystanders to something.
Why is it people in your own community who believe these conspiracy theories?
You do realize for this conspiracy to be true, it would take 30 to 50 people.
Oh, that right there is an absolute lie. All it takes is you guys right in that room, okay? Sitting in front of that reporter.
You'd have to have.
Okay, who drove the Ford Edge? Why don't you ask that kind of question, Mr. Interviewer? Why would a Ford Edge be parked out there just 10 feet away from John's body and not see anything? That's one of the most massive questions that has not been answered.
Multiple cops on 2 different police departments, multiple civilians. The
Yeah, why don't you say the same about Sandra Birchmore case, huh, buddy?
Medical examiner, firemen, EMTs, you
Yeah.
name it.
Oh, people like Dever. You're talking about people like Dever and people like that helped cover up the Birchmore molestation and murder.
That's how preposterous and silly this is. And
Yeah, it is. It is really despicable how you guys act there. The supposed law enforcement are the ones running the crime rackets.
And great question. I don't understand how people bought this.
Brian Albert says he and Nicole only found out about John's death
Yeah, you're right. You thought people would be dumb enough to believe this stupid story about, oh yeah, John O'Keefe got hit by Karen in her taillight.
when Jen McCabe, who is Nicole's sister, barged into their bedroom.
She was just upset and I immediately thought something had happened to one of her children or one of my children, because why else is she
What happened to your Mr. Rogers sweater there?
in my bedroom at 6:30 in the morning right now?
And what did she tell you?
She said, John's out front. I think John's dead out front. I said, what the are you talking about, Jen? And I'm like, who? I didn't know.
You still didn't
Yeah,
piece
he's not looking at him. He's looking a little skittish here.
I didn't understand what she was talking about, because why would John be out front of my house?
So massively confusing.
Unbelievable. These guys are something else. They think this is helping them?
There are police officers, EMTs on your front lawn. You're an officer. Why don't you just go outside and investigate or take a look?
I'm not a Canton police officer. I'm a Boston police officer.
Okay, well, what did he say the first time? The first time he said, well, I was asleep. Nobody woke me up. Nothing woke me up. And now he's talking about it like, hey, he's got a different story, completely different story. Well, it's not my jurisdiction.
I was just woken up out of a cold sleep from hanging out the night before. By the time I came
Oh,
downstairs,
by the time.
the police were already in my house.
So it took all that time before you woke up? Really? The dog never barked? What happened to Chloe?
John was already gone. There was nobody to save. I would have taken him.
All that commotion out front, you never heard a thing, right? And your front door is just wide open and the house is completely dark and there's no dog barking. And you know what? Your sister-in-law, Jen McCabe, had no worries about you and her sister, possibly something happening to them in that dark, dark house.
A bullet for John O'Keefe because he was a fellow cop. That's the most ridiculous question that people always ask. It makes zero sense. What am I supposed to do? Run out front in my underwear and start running yellow tape around the fire hydrant?
No, you're supposed to save his life, dude. You're supposed to go out there and see what you can do to save his life, not investigate the crime, for crying out loud. Look at how he has no regrets. Like, I wish I could have been out there. I wish somebody would have woke me up. Where's my dog? Somebody should have woke me up. I could have at least been out there. I could have felt like, hey, at least I'm helping a fellow, cop that's dead or dying out there. I'll go all the way to New York City to see a couple fallen cops I don't know, see their funeral. But, a guy that dies in my front yard, he's a cop. He's a different jurisdiction. I don't need to help this guy.
Over the course of the night, Reed called and texted John 52 times. She then called Jen asking for help to find John. Karen previously telling me she and John had gotten into an argument that night.
Would you say that you were angry with John that night?
Yes.
Yeah. You know what? If you do have to run out there in your underwear because somebody's dying, you would do that. Okay. I'm sure as a cop, you can have some things some shorts or pants to put on really quickly. So don't make it sound like you had no ability to run out there in quick fashion. So it's just all weak, lame excuses. And they're thinking this is going to help them.
Could you have been angry enough and slightly drunk because he had annoyed you that in a fit of rage you just backed up and
Never.
tried to tap him?
Would
Not
never
to try to kill him, but try to
tap him with my 6,000-pound full-size SUV. To hit John's body with my car. No.
I spoke with a juror tonight who told me she believes a collision did not occur.
Overall, a lot of the evidence had caused reasonable doubt, and that was enough for us not to convict.
A little after 6 a.m., Karen found John's body in the snow. Jen called 911.
911, what's your emergency?
There's a man passed out in the snow.
Hello?
But what
Why don't you ask them about the butt dialing, huh? Why don't you ask them about getting rid of their phones and SIM
raised
cards?
eyebrows at Reed's trial was a defense theory about a Google search Jen had made about how long it takes to die in the cold. The defense claiming she searched it before O'Keefe's body was found.
So much has been made about that Google search that morning. Was it at 6 a.m. or was it at 6:27 a.m.? How long to die in the cold? What's your answer?
She asked me to do it at outside of Fairview at 6:20, whatever it was. Doesn't matter how much I say about it.
Well, you said he's already dead. Why would you do that search if you said he's already dead? You told 911 he's already dead. You're already off the phone with him. Why would you do that?
People will not believe it.
The group also hoping to clear up rumors regarding the Albert's dog, Chloe, who had been rehomed after the incident. The defense claimed the dog was involved in O'Keefe's death.
Those wounds were inflicted as the result of a dog attack. Those marks are from teeth.
They've known for 2 years where Chloe is. The state shared it with them.
So if they wanted to take DNA evidence from Chloe the dog and match it to possible DNA evidence on John O'Keefe, they could have matched.
Absolutely.
But now with the trial behind them, they say
Well, how
they're
convenient.
still faced with threats against them and their families, but hope to continue calling this community their home.
You get down, you get depressed, and it's like, but this is the town we like grew up in. Like, we didn't do anything wrong. We all contributed to our town. We love our town. Why should we have to go anywhere?
Well, that's what happens.
The criminal justice system has let us down.
Oh, sorry. Lost my spot.
This is. And great question. I don't understand how people bought this.
Brian Albert says he and Nicole only found out about.
I came downstairs. The police were already in my house. John was already gone. There was nobody
You were so out of it that the cops came into your house before you had a chance to do anything. Wow.
to save. I would have taken a bullet for John O'Keefe because he was a fellow cop. That's the most ridiculous question that people always.
Yeah, I take a bullet for the guy, and we hire lawyers to make sure we don't get caught up in the wrong answer when we have to testify about it. But we're just bystanders that are taking the high road, right?
Asked. It makes zero sense. What am I supposed to do? Run out front in my underwear and start running yellow tape around the fire hydrant?
See how dishonest that is, right there. Yeah, you just throw on whatever you have available, and tell me a cop is not ready to have some clothes right by his bed to jump on in case he has to go rush to do something.
Over the course of the night, Reed called and texted John 52 times.
Why didn't you ask Jen McCabe about why she never disclosed that there was a police officer that was there laying in the snow?
She then called Jen asking for help to find John. Karen previously telling me she and John had gotten into an argument that night.
What about the 507 38-second call that happened between Jen McCabe and her sister Nicole Albert?
Would you say that you were angry with John that night?
Yes.
Could you have been angry enough and slightly drunk because he had annoyed you that in a fit of rage you just backed up and
Never.
tried to tap him?
Would
Not to
never
try to kill him, but try to.
to tap him with my 6,000-pound full-size SUV. To hit John's body with my car. No.
I spoke with a juror tonight who told me she believes a collision did not occur.
There you go.
Overall, a lot of the evidence had caused reasonable doubt, and that was enough for us not to convict.
A little after 6 a.m., Karen found John's body in the snow. Jen called 911.
911, what's your emergency?
There's a man passed out in the snow.
A man.
Hello?
Not Boston
Raised
police
eyebrows at
officer.
Reed's trial was a defense theory about a Google search
John
Jen had made
O'Keefe.
about how long it takes to die in the cold. The defense claiming she searched it before O'Keefe's body was found.
So much has been made about that Google search that morning. Was it at 6 a.m. or was it at 6:27 a.m.? How long to die in the cold? What's your answer?
She asked me to do it at outside of Fairview at 6:20, whatever it was. Doesn't matter how much I say about it, people will not believe it.
The group also hoping to clear up rumors regarding the Albert's dog, Chloe, who had been rehomed after the incident. The defense claimed the dog was involved in O'Keefe's death.
Those wounds were inflicted as the result of a dog attack. Those marks are from teeth.
They've known for 2 years where Chloe is. The state shared it with them.
So if they wanted to take DNA evidence from Chloe the dog and match it to
How do they know it's the right Chloe dog,
possible
right?
DNA evidence on John O'Keefe, they could have matched it.
Absolutely.
But now, with the trial behind them, they say they're still faced with threats against them and their families, but hope to continue calling this community their home.
You get down, you get depressed, and it's like, but this is the town we like grew up in. Like, we didn't do anything wrong. We all contributed to our town. We love our town. Why should we have to go anywhere?
Well, but the problem is the people don't trust you there, and you're a city council select member. It's like part of the city government. And what's going on here in this case, and then you have the Birchmore case on top of it. This place is outright evil.
The criminal justice system has let us down.
All right, hold on.
A little after 6 a.m., Karen found John's body in the snow. Jen called 911.
911, what's emergency?
All right, we saw that.
2 years where Chloe is. The state
I
shared
get-
it with them.
So if they wanted to take DNA evidence from Chloe the dog and match it to possible DNA evidence on John O'Keefe, they could have matched it.
Absolutely.
But now, with the trial behind them, they say they're still faced with threats against them and their families, but hope to continue calling this community their home.
You get down, you get depressed, and it's like, but this is the town we like grew up in. Like, we didn't do anything wrong. We all contributed to our town.
But we all got lawyers. Or I don't know about him, but the others sure did.
We love our town. Why should we have to go anywhere?
The criminal
All
justice.
right, so that's it there. So, wow, they think that made them look good. I don't know what they're thinking. Wonder how many lawyers they had in the room. Or they released the lawyers now that they have Karen's case over with, and they know that Morrissey has no issues with them whatsoever. I'm just going through your comments right now. Oh yeah, Chris Albert is the one that's been convicted of hit and run death, some foreign student back in the 90s. And that's the one that I've been hearing that Judge Canoni's brother, a defense lawyer, represented him, and he wound up serving like, I think, 0 time. Kelly B, if they didn't do anything wrong, they wouldn't be saying they didn't do anything wrong. Noodles Mama, John's wound were not swabbed. They knew that. Yeah, it's too late now. Yeah, this is ABC News. I can't imagine anybody living there. I don't know what the Reeds are going to do, but I surely wouldn't stay in that state. When the government employees make that much money, as we've talked about before, Brian Albert from Boston PD was making $244,000 a year when he retired. And by the way, he retired a few months after this happened as well, back in 2022. Okay, he got 6 months of confinement. Chris Albert did. I think that's what you're referring to. So why would they get on here and think they're going to get sympathy from folks? They're not going to get sympathy from folks anywhere where they live. Yeah, thank God the jury got it right. They didn't fall for all this scam, because you're right. If they'd gotten Karen convicted, that would have really taken a lot of heat off them from wondering if the feds are going after him. Groovy, sure. I've heard people say they wouldn't pass through there. Yeah, I know. Leah Baker, they came out and said that Karen would be able to leave the state while she's on probation. So she may have to come back and check in very rarely, but it's just a misdemeanor. So yeah, I'd get out of that state. Yeah, well, then we had what? The lieutenant there for like little town of Canton with 25,000. One of the lieutenants was making 322,000 a year. That's just absolutely insane amount of money for a government worker. And so all these lieutenants and police captains, they're all super wealthy there. Never heard of public servants making that kind of money. You're not servants if you're making that kind of money. You're more like the lords over the serfs. Yeah, they did seem, Teresa M, I do think didn't they come across as scared? Madam August, butterflies like they're softening the blow from something that may be coming. It's like a guilty conscience. Yeah, we saw the ice cream truck there, right? That ice cream truck was driving around the courthouse area. Yeah, I don't know when the civil trial is, JMS. No, it's like 25,000. I just looked it up recently. It was like 24 something. It's like about 25, 30 minutes from Boston, downtown Boston. Yeah, Gallagher. Gallagher made 322,000 when he retired. That's what his salary was. Like in 2024. Yeah, Dream Feed Media channel has a whole video on the Canton PD salaries. That's where I think I originally saw it. So thanks for that channel. Yeah, go check it out. Yeah, 322,000. Imagine that, just for the little tiny town of Canton. They can't even afford normal police equipment. They can't even afford to build a normal courthouse because they're giving the police officers so much money. Yeah, Ashley White, after 2 trials and basically 2 acquittals of 30 plus jurors, all not guilty on all counts, all the medical professionals, ARCA, number one, believe the McAlbert story doesn't make any sense. Commonwealth, wake up. Oh, that's interesting. Leslie and I were just talking about today. I wonder what the behavioral guys would say about these guys. I've heard that, yeah, Higgins has his house on the market currently. Okay, so there's a food is lug requested. My mod, thank you for supporting once again your faithful commitment to modding. I'm going to pull up an email, something you recommended. Okay, stand by. There's an article, not a video. It's loading right now. Yeah. John's already gone. Yeah, where'd he go? Okay. From the Boston Herald, Karen Reed, jury foreman breaks silence, cost, shoddy police work, no justice for victim, no evidence, high cost, bad police work, all red flags. Juror number one tells the jury, tells the Herald, I mean. Juror number one, the foreman in the Karen Reed retrial, told the Herald there was no aha moment in the grueling case that he said wasted taxpayers' money on paper-thin evidence that failed to bring any comfort to the victim's family. What do you mean paper-thin evidence? Hank Brennan said this is like overwhelming proof of guilt. Open and shut case. The unforgivable fact that investigators didn't swarm the house at the murder scene at 34 Fairview in Canton during a nor'easter in January of 22 was shoddy work and a blatant red flag, the foreman added. Wait a minute, you're saying these cops would lie to you? You're saying Gallagher and all them? Gallagher, wasn't he the one that said that there's no way they could even get a warrant? Why did they even bother to ask to search the house? As a cop there, they got to take his word for it. You don't need to search a cop's house. That's why the only guilty finding against Reed was drunken driving. If that body was on my front steps, I know my house, my house would have been stormed. That's actually true. The juror who is black and grew up in Boston's Jamaica plan. The text from Trooper Paul BITCH and expletive also showed a serious bias, yet I had to put my personal opinion aside. Yeah, you know darn right. Anybody else that wasn't a cop and he grew up in Boston's Jamaica plain, yeah, seriously. I'm glad he sees it for what this is. It all seemed like a lot of wishy-washy privilege, the foreman said. We had to look at the evidence. A lot of it didn't make sense. There was no meat, no aha moment. No one proved there was a collision, even with all that jargon, and all the jurors agreed. Oh, God. What do you guys say for yourself, Brennan? Come on. The juror who asked his name not be revealed spoke with the Herald by telephone late Friday night, along with his wife. The couple has 3 children. They have been painfully close to tragedy before. The juror said they both knew. I don't know. I won't even say the first name. Tazarnev, who along with his terrorist brother Chamberlain detonated 2 bombs to the finish line of the Boston Marathon and bombing the victim, 8-year-old Martin Richard. That terror attack Can't read the bottom of the second slide there. Injured more than, I think it's what, 20 some people, that terror attack. Oh, yeah. 264 others claimed 4 lives and maybe injured more than 264 others. The juror revealed that his wife was working at MIT the night campus cop Sean Collier was executed, would soon engage in a deadly firefight with police in nearby Watertown that ultimately ended in the death. Okay, I'm thinking of something else, the Boston bombing. His wife took a train home and avoiding trouble. Juror was tired with her use. We said, of course, I was picked then for the Karen Reed jury. The couple added together over phone, sharing in the irony. The juror said he's still struggling with the whirlwind case. And at times he gazed over at the victim, John O'Keefe's mother, Peggy, who would wipe away tears when images of her son, 46-year-old Boston officer, with his head split open. Still, he added that the jury couldn't lock up Reed, 45. At 45, the officer's girlfriend on the measly evidence presented. Measly. Oh, God. That's not what we were told by Morrissey and Brennan. Come on. Lally, all these guys. The judge, the way she treated this case, it's just a foregone conclusion. Karen did it, and the evidence is overwhelming. The foreman added the jury's announcement of verdict on Wednesday was suddenly pulled back was over one male juror who got the jitters. At lunch, I asked the juror, "Are you okay? Do you think I can take back my vote?" he asked. Other jurors got a little nervous, the foreman added, but 20 minutes later, he said, "Okay, guilty of OUI." That was the only charge all agreed upon and the only clear evidence, without a doubt, of any infraction, the foreman added. We only went with what was put in front of us, he said of the panel, 7 women and 5 men. I'm still asking, where is justice for John? The juror told the Herald that all jurors quickly went their separate ways, but have agreed to meet soon to try to make sense of an often incomprehensible case. The cost of taxpayers. Another jury speaking out says she's disgusted by how much taxpayer money the Norfolk DA's office poured into the prosecution. Walpole resident Paula Prado, okay, that was the lady from Brazil we showed earlier, still feels deeply for the former BPD officer's family. We already saw that before. I'll skip through that. All that Morrissey has said since the jury verdict was delivered Wednesday is a forward statement. The jury has spoken. Wow. So he just gives a forward statement, I guess an emailed statement. That's it. That's all he's got to say for this. All this embarrassment. Why isn't he having to answer questions about this waste, fraud, and abuse of taxpayer money, of persecuting somebody that you had no case against, not one time, but 2 trials? You wasted all this time and money. You guys are outright evil. This is evil to the core to treat people this way. Okay, but it says here, but Prado and jury didn't buy the argument. In the radio interview on Friday, she said a hefty price tag that went into prosecuting Reed baffled her and fellow jurors. Prado specifically pointed out the $400K spent on Aperture, an accident reconstruction firm that the DA pulled 2 witnesses from. Both testified that Reed's Lexus 570 likely struck O'Keefe around 12:32 on the morning of his death. Special prosecutor Hank Brennan's paycheck of at least $250K for the retrial also caught Prado's eye. Every time we got on the bus, especially in the beginning, we all think, how much money is this city, the state putting on the police following us, the bus, everything? Yeah, it really bothers me. Now here it says that Prado had formed a theory about John O'Keefe's death for years that she does suggest that Reed may have clipped him with her SUV based on data from Aperture. Nah, I think you get that wrong. See, that's bad journalism here. Dog bite theory. The scratch on O'Keefe's arm, Prado said, did not appear to come from Reed's broken taillight, but rather a dog, aligning with the defense theory about Chloe. Something happened inside the house, Prado said. What is it? I don't know. I don't understand why all the Alberts didn't come out and why their dog didn't bark at all. Those are the holes we cannot fill. There you go. That's what we were just saying. On the interview, why didn't you come out of the house and why didn't your dog bark? The Albertson Key prosecution witnesses, most who were not called to stand on retrial but testified in the first trial, said they did not see O'Keefe in her home early that morning. Well, they sure talked about making sure the media didn't know about it. So make sure you tell them the guy never went in the house. Yeah, okay. What about the FBI? Judge Canoni barred the prosecution defense from directly referencing the federal probe investigation, which has since ended. No, I don't think it has. You wouldn't know that. Pareto said she realized that early on that the FBI had been involved, but it was something that wasn't something we took into consideration during deliberations. Pareto said her thoughts about Brennan changed throughout the trial and that she can't judge him as a lawyer because the case was awful full of holes. She added that she felt Canoni, despite being very nice, gave too much protection to the prosecution by numerous objections during key defense witnesses. Prado took a shot at Kelly Deaver. Goes on to talk about the wildly long time that Berkowitz, the chief police accountant, and ATF agent Higgins were there with Reed's SUV. Prado called Dever not believable at all. Yeah. She's not comfortable with the behavior at all because she's an officer after all, and she's among us. She carries a gun. And then she talks about internet trolls attacking her. Yeah, well, that happens. That happens when you speak the truth about somebody being railroaded and being set up. So anyway, okay, that was interesting. Thanks for the tip there. Food is love. The wolf, you're saying it's great how the jurors think that pretty much the same way we felt. It's great that they all thought judge and prosecutor were in it together. Yeah, one of the jurors mentions Dr. Russell's testimony was hard to follow because of Hank's numerous objections. I think that was this Paulo Prado that said that. Oh, you're saying John DePietro went after her online, mocking her, saying she's an illegal immigrant? I hadn't heard that one, but sounds typical. People are just full of hate towards Karen. It's unbelievable. Yeah, why doesn't Morrissey resign? There ought to be some massive protest demanding him be out of office now. No, Sula, I haven't seen anything from Brennan. He's not going to talk about this case. He'd be free to because the case is over, but I'm just thinking about when he was, after he got done with his case in chief. Remember, he was all smiley face walking out of the courtroom that one day. I mean, he was just grinning ear to ear. He thought he'd done so well. Yeah, it's unbelievable the kind of stuff that's out there. Yeah, I'm aware of the Leslie and Yannetti interview. I just saw a few minutes of it with Leslie, and then we had to go. So I have not seen other than, gosh, maybe 5-10 minutes at most. But yeah, those guys are awesome. I've heard you guys make some comments here before I started saying that they're like best buds, loves him like a brother. Yannetti was saying that about Leslie. So that's awesome that they got a lifelong friendship from this case. When you got to go through battles like that, it galvanizes and forges some of the strongest friendships. And so, yeah, they've been through hell and back together, being treated that way by the court and the prosecution. Sula, did you appreciate your dad, Karen's dad, thinking content creators, your work doesn't go unnoticed? Yeah, that was nice of him to thank folks, supporting them. There's been a lot of folks out there supporting them. So initially, it was like a lightning rod when I just did my first video. I just said, "Hey, look, I don't know this much about the case. I know that my wife's been following it more than me, and every day I ask her, hey, was there any forensic stuff connecting Karen's vehicle to the injuries?" And we talked about it, and there wasn't anything. So before before we found out why the verdict was, I said they're never going to be able to retry that. They should never retry this case. And they're never going to get a murder conviction out of it. There were some really nasty trolls that just came out of the woodwork I'd never seen before. And these are people that have been following me on the Adelson case before. So I was like, wow, this thing's like really, really a lightning rod of some venomous people. But anyway, I looked at it some more and thought, you know what? This is really bizarre, the kind of effort they're putting into this case. What do they see that I'm not seeing, that they think they can get a conviction out of this kind of ash and trash evidence? Absolutely looks so corrupted and unbelievably damaged, all the chain of custody and all that. Yeah, that's thanks, LJ. I'm fair and impartial. I'm just going to tell you guys a straight scoop. Okay, I've been a prosecutor, defense counsel in numerous settings. I've been in the state, in the military. I've also been a special assistant U.S. attorney while I was in the military. So I'm just going to tell it to you straight. If I don't, I'm not here to. Notice there's no super chats. I've never asked for money. I've never asked for subs. I don't care about that stuff. I just want to like speak truth to what's really going on, because there's so much false narrative out there. And anyway, I'm just going to tell you as I see it. And you know what? If I thought Karen was guilty, but they couldn't prove it, I thought she was guilty, I'll tell you that as well. So I'm just going to not pull any punches or hide the ball from you guys, because there's so much hiding the ball out there. There's so much deception. So yes, Sula. My wife is a lawyer. She also is a PhD engineer, along with some other degrees, advanced degrees, I should say. Well, some of those trolls, I guess, are computer generated as well. People say don't even respond to them. I saw a comment on that like the last 24 hours. They're saying don't even respond to them trolls. And there's not that many, actually. I thought there'd be a lot worse when I started this thing. After I got that first blast, I thought it'd be like a constant trying to take over and hijack the channel, but it's really not been that bad. Thanks for your guys' well wishes. I appreciate y'all. Yeah, so this jury turned out sort of like I said. I know nothing about what the people there, the locals, are about, but I just thought all the jury trials I've done, I've worked around a lot of Americans on jury trials, and I thought they're not going to be that different up there than they are other places. I've tried cases, jury trial cases, so in the end, that came to pass. Unless you have some outlier, like you get the wrong person on the jury. So I'm not saying any jury you can select and you're automatically gonna have the same results. No, you got to be good. If you're good about jury selection, otherwise known as elimination, because you're actually looking at who you want to kick off. As long as you kick off like the cop we had on the first jury, that first jury would have been set. Karen would have been fully acquitted that first trial if you didn't leave that cop on the jury. So yeah, no, the trolls have not been that bad, but yeah, some of the nasty stuff. And like I say, I've said stuff about the defense too. It's like, hey, why is the defense doing this or that? So anyway, I'm just calling it like I see it. I'm not like all pro defense, all pro prosecution. No, I'm pro justice. It's very easy to see from the get go. This was about Karen Reed being railroaded, and so I was cheering her on. And then if attorneys I thought should do something different, I wasn't hesitate to say that as well. But overall, they did a fabulous job. So I was just giving my 2 cents. Every attorney has a different idea of stuff, but anyway. Okay, here's another Leslie. Yeah, you're not my Leslie. My Leslie's spelled Lesly also, so there's a difference there. That's a good question. MG, I'll call you. Will Karen keep the same legal team for the civil case? I'm not sure. I haven't heard about that. It might be different because it's maybe insurance type cases where the insurance is companies are defending her. Yeah, thanks, Cenix. I will look at the Morphew case some because I'm pretty sure that's the one they live way out in the country. He was like some kind of a landscaping contractor or some kind of contractor with concrete and rock or something. And so I remember hearing about that one a couple years ago. So I'm definitely going to take a serious look at that one. Yeah. Max to Phoenix, Brian Albert being destroyed on X, the first responder, different jurisdiction really did him in. I mean, how do they think that's making them look good? That's unbelievable. Yeah, seriously, this was a talk about a whack job getting on that interview and all these guys talking. His ABC News guy, I forget his name, Dan Abrams or something like that. Bad PR. Yes, patent attorney. Mm-hmm. But I tell her she should be a prosecutor or trial attorney because she's just a natural, brilliant attorney with instincts that are better than most anybody I've ever seen. So, yeah, Suzanne Morphew was the wife. Yeah, why doesn't Yannetti run for Norfolk DA? Yeah, that's a good idea. I hadn't thought about that. Arca's chicken gun. Wife vanished. He tranquilized, darted her. Yeah, some kind of a like deer tranquilizer or something like that. Oh, Nick Smith, thank you for also, yeah, with my wife. But overall, I mean, look at I said that the strategy in the first one, I called out Alan Jackson. He only said reasonable doubt 3 times in his original opening. I thought that was a major, huge miss, and I said he needed to hammer that home, and they totally adjusted fire, and they did listen to a lot of folks. So, because it was just common sense. It wasn't something that was great, insightful by me, but that's a good one. Here, yeah. Scotchy, 1 minute he says, I'll take a bullet for John. Next minute he says, what am I supposed to do? Go out and help him in my underwear? I mean, it's cold out there. It's 15 degrees. I'm not going to go out there in my undies. I'm not going to save a guy over having to wear undies out there to try to do CPR. I'll go back to sleep. What the heck? GWTA Geo, they made themselves look guilty as all get out in that interview. Yeah, so that's I heard about that in the MSM lawyers in the attorney's interview. They said there was evidence they weren't allowed to bring in to show their 3 had actual legs. Oh, we know that's the case. Yeah, there's a lot of information that those I'm sure was blocked. They had some kind of sealed motions as well by the prosecution, I'm sure. I'm trying to remember, did any of these jurors talk about the ham sandwich deal? Yeah, the Idaho case, that's going to kick off, I think, around 11 August. I'm not sure. I haven't decided which one I want to do. Jennifer Rank, do I believe a federal investigation into the lying to the feds may reveal who the main suspect is and a new DA will pursue it? That's what I do. It's like, who do you got for sure that you can nail for lying? And work up from there. I would go to Dever first and say, you know what? We got you in a massive lie, and you're trying to say that's a false memory. Really, you're going to say that in front of a jury? Go after her first, and then I would go after who else you got? Jen. Jen lied. You can't call later and say, "Well, I didn't lie. I meant to, not really say that." There's other people that I called before. Well, I was trying to get myself presentable. No, she wasn't trying to get presentable. She's trying to alert everybody. Hey, the feds are here. The FBI is here. So go after her as well. Of course, she has counsel. Devers probably has counsel too, for that matter. But just say, hey, look, We're gonna start indictments. Anybody want to come clean? But I think they got more wiretaps and stuff like that. Maybe they're just waiting to see how this thing plays out. Is anybody going to CrimeCon this year? It's in Denver, right near the Denver airport. It's like in September, October. Yeah, do you think they're investigating still, the feds? They wouldn't. I don't think they'd announce that. Yeah. I think they told them that, hoping they would see what they would do, and maybe that was sort of like a bump, like we had in the Adelson case. Yeah, he wasn't Sarah Levinson. Wasn't she the one who talked about how she'd been going there for years, or basically her whole life? She's been visiting there at 34 Fairview, and yet she'd never seen the dog. If that's not a sign that somebody got to you, I don't know what is. Okay, CrimeCon is September 5 through the 7th. So we plan to be out there. I haven't talked to John about it yet. He's been out of the country, but I'm sure John will be there too. Yeah, John and I went to CrimeCon and also Ben last summer. It was last summer, yeah, in Nashville. So if you all come out there, we'll have anybody wants to join, we'll have a little gathering and celebrate the great win for Karen Reed. And maybe be talking about this other Colorado case or whatever ones we cover at that time. Yeah, CrimeCon is expensive though. It's like just to get in the door. It's the 5 through 7 September out in Denver. It's like $430 a person just to get in the door. It's pretty pricey, but yeah, Joe Kelly. Yeah, I'm sure the media isn't going to question the Boston police commissioner about why he's calling in Dever into his office. You call Dever a peon in his office about her memory regarding murder in another jurisdiction. Yeah, it is crazy. I don't know why it's expensive. I mean, there's probably, I don't know, 7,000 people there in Nashville last year. Jennifer Rank, isn't it true someone who commits perjury to a federal agent regarding serious nature crimes such as murder investigation faces serious prison time? If it's a first offense, you could probably get off with a probation time after serving maybe 6 months or a year. Well, I guess a good example is Martha Stewart. Remember, they tried to investigate her for insider trading, and the only thing they got her on was lying to the federal agents, and so that's what she had to serve time for. Roseanne, you think the police commissioner was witness tampering? Well, what they never asked her when did you decide to change your testimony and call it a false memory? Melanie Gore, you're asking who'd I meet and like? Let's see. I got to meet Surviving the Survivor guys there. No, they were already gone. I take that back. No, they were there. Yeah, I did see them. Yeah. Okay, I missed them at the trial. That's something. But I saw them at Crime Con. And Steve Cohen, they're one of their managers for bringing on experts. And then I saw, who was it? I saw Julie Grant was there. I just saw her, talked to her for just a second in passing because I'd been on her opening statement show before, but that's not going to happen again, the way she's been trashing Karen Reed. Okay, that's a good idea. Liz Pondgrants, if you contact CrimeCon to volunteer, you get it for free. It's a few hours volunteering a day. Yeah, they had a lot of volunteers there, so that's good to know. Yeah, 7,000 is just my guess. I mean, it seemed like that was at the Gaylord Convention Center there in Nashville. And now it's at the Gaylord there in Denver. So those are really nice places. So I'm thinking last time we were just walking around and meeting folks. I'm trying to think, who else did we see? John got there before I did, so I think he met some other folks, like the prosecutor on the, what was his name, Clayton. The guy, what was his name, Clayton, the prosecutor there from South Carolina that prosecuted Murdo. Saw Defense Diaries guy, he was there. Didn't see his wife. And some of the other content creators, I can't think of their names off the top of my head, but they all had different booths there. So I think this year we'll have a booth. No, Creighton. I think his name was Creighton. Creighton Waters. Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Sherry B. Creighton Waters was there. Johnny talked to him. I didn't. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Judge Newman, he was an awesome judge. And, you know, that's something I debated having a live stream on, talking about the chances of Murdo getting the case overturned. You guys heard about the clerk of court there getting busted on a couple felony charges for, I think it was like obstruction of justice or something like that, messing with the jury. So Tall Legal, what's the name? TV anchor graduate. I don't know. Are you talking about Julia Janae from Court TV? I met her there at the Adelson trial. Yeah, Becky. Yeah, Becky is the name of the clerk of court there. Psychology 9, you're very surprised Unetti brought up Jennifer Coffendahl. Yeah, it's like a retired FBI agent just trashing Karen Reed all the time, saying how strong the case is or something like that. I don't know. It's what does she know? If she's a retired FBI agent, she doesn't try cases. Jeannie Greenwald. Yeah, the Don Adelson case. What's next after that? Are you still interested in the Shannon Gardner and Jared Fredigan case? I still am. I haven't found out what's going on with that lately, though. So it may get pushed to the back burner. I'm not sure, depending on the timing of these. Yeah, well, think about it. So, what credibility does she have if she said this case is so strong? What do these people got to say for themselves? The jury's stupid. If you pick the right jury, you'll get the right results. If you get rid of the bad apples, you'll get the right results. Oh, I didn't know that. Court TV gave DiPietro and others a platform. Okay. I saw there was somebody on there saying that Karen was a psycho and stuff like that. Sociopath, something. I mean, it's just like not even a lawyer. It's like this whatever kind of people they pulled out of the woodwork to trash Karen. That's what they would do. Yeah, so I'm not saying all the people are bad there at Court TV. I'm just saying a lot of their programming has just gone into complete sort of like, and not that I even watch anymore. Just once in a while, stuff pops up, and I've seen a few seconds of it, and I was like, "Wow, I'm shocked to see that." But they have to have credible, unbiased coverage, so that's not what they're losing. I think Vinny might have been a little bit more neutral than Julie Grant. But overall, the kind of guests they have on there trashing, it wasn't like a law show. It's more like a I don't know, Jerry Springer show or something. I did think Vinny was the one that talked about how then they drove around through the neighborhoods. The phone wasn't noting any changes of steps taken. contrary to what we had Welcher testifying to. They're crazy on court TV. Oh, was he anti-Karen Reed? Vinny was? I didn't, like I say, I'm not following it. I just seen bits and pieces here and there. So yeah, what are they saying about the jury now? They're gonna have to blame it on the jury. Not that they don't know how to evaluate cases, right? PJ, yeah, I did hear about that. I saw like this screenshot of it that this Boston News Judge Jack Lew, or like he's like a retired judge there. He said Karen Reed is guilty. Yeah, wow. Well, he's part of the legal system up there. Where I guess what do you expect if he's been a former state employee in the law enforcement / judicial arena? Melanie Gore, interesting you say that. You said Vinny had a hard time with the drinking and driving because growing up in his neighbors all died by a DUI driver. I think in the end he thought that she was innocent. Yeah, if somebody's been victimized by an alcoholic, they are like very, very tunnel visioned on anybody drinking and you're driving, you must be guilty. It's sort of like their emotions and the trauma they can't do away with. And it's no fault to them. So I didn't know that about Vinny. So that's a horrible tragedy he'd have to go through. And I'm sure, yeah, that probably shaped his views of Karen. So, and that's the kind of stuff that, in jury selection, you try to screen off people that could have had those kind of situations. Yeah, that's true. Queen of Hearts, if a juror wants to understand the main issues quickly, they can go to microdots. Microdots is awesome. What a great service they've done to Karen Reed. Yeah, I don't know if any came around at River Birch, you're saying he has, but it's TV plays, and you're saying you didn't notice Vinny is anti-Karen. I don't know. Like I said, I didn't see him, but all I saw was a couple clips of Julie Grant and who she had on there. I was like, wow, this is like really gone down the tube. So I was assuming that maybe Vinny's sort of the same way. I didn't see anything about Vinny being like her, but Amy, you're asking how can the Keys take her to court again? Well, there's a pending wrongful death action. Yeah, what'd you guys think of how Jen McCabe looked in that interview tonight? I never did ask that. Good point, Barbara Taylor. You're saying she looked horribly distraught and scared with worry. I was really surprised. The most nervous, though, I thought was the one I thought would be the most stoic, and that's Brian Albert. He looked like a fixer that was losing his ability to fix stuff. Okay, so Court TV had DePietro and Colin Albert's attorney on all the time, as well as Coffindall or not. Okay, I didn't see that. Yeah. They only wanted one-side journalism, so that's not journalism. If that's what they're doing. Perplex TC, you're saying Coffindall worked in the ecology department with the FBI, had nothing to do with anything crime related. Okay, I did not know that. Interesting. All right, just looking for questions here, insights. Is that the guy's name, Richie at Microdots? I did not know that. Is rumored to be planning a KR fundraiser in the future with other plans as well. Yeah, we'll have to do something out at CrimeCon. As I said, to still talk about this case. It's going to be a long while before we get over this case. It's just such a toll on us, wasn't it? Emotionally, seeing all this stuff going on. Yeah, Nicole did keep looking down a lot, right? Liz Ponskrantz, she couldn't talk without looking around for approval. Yep. Allegedly, maybe. They all look disheveled. Blank almost like this will blow over like the leaf blowers. Microdots. Richie, are you on the chat here, I hear? Let's see. Do a live stream for you guys in Europe. I've done it before. Hey, there you are. I guess I heard your name is Richie. Is that true? You don't have to answer it if you don't want to. We're just commenting on you tonight. What a great job you've done. And we hope the jurors see it. I'm sure the jurors will see the great videos you've produced. That really helps explain a lot of stuff. We're still talking about different stuff. Hey, you should come out to CrimeCon. CrimeCon is in Denver. It's at the Gaylord Resort there, and it's an annual convention, and you should set up a booth there. If you set up a booth, it's actually free to set up a booth. There's an admission fee, but if you agree to be a volunteer for a few hours a day, you don't have to pay an admission. The admission's like $435 per person. But okay. So I guess that's answering my question. So Richie, so anyway, yeah. Microdots adultery. All right. Can you tell us how you came up with the name Microdots? Any special meaning behind that? Wow, PJ, you survived a being hit from behind, I guess it was 80 miles an hour. Thank God you survived. It was a drunk driver turned out to be a state trooper's son. Sorry, I'm slurring my words a little bit here. Australia respects you guys at Microdots. Oh, you got framed shirts, okay. Micro rocks. Microdot secret matches. I don't know if that's a response to my question or not, or somebody else's. Microdrops are a form of spy craft dating back decades, says Zoe B. Yep, you guys are amazing. Helped explain a lot of the evidence. I really think that jurors had to be watching your channel as well, Microdots. So just joining the dots microscopically. Drinking some green tea here with honey. Well, that's cool. You're not here to sell anything, but I know we bought some from y'all as well. From your merch store, whatever you call it. And they also sell shirts. Lauren Muster, I think it's an absolute disaster from a PR standpoint. I think it blew up in their face. And they're just trying to make themselves blend into the woodwork. And the last thing you want to do is come on and try to gain the sympathy of folks. All right, you got new merchandise there, so check it out, folks. He's not here to plug his channel for selling stuff, but I can do that. Oh yeah, no, there's nothing alcoholic here. We don't drink in this house. Yeah, Microdots, you really need to come out to CrimeCon. And have a booth out there and show your stuff, what you can produce, and I think people would really be fascinated. You guys would have one of the coolest booths. Well, why don't you give me a call? Let's see, give me a call this weekend if you can, or whenever. You can see my cell number on this top of the channel header. I really think you ought to go out there and see all the other content creators and hang out with. I'm sure there'll be a lot of Karen Reed supporters out there. I did not know you're covering that. Is that true, Microdots? You're covering the Kohlberger as well as the Delphi case? I've heard a lot about the Delphi case. Is that the one in Indiana? Is that one already over? Is that trial already over? Is that even filmed? Is that the one that wasn't filmed? Noodle's mama already has her 16 and 13-year-old boys hooked on your videos. They want to do work like you. Yeah, Delphi's over. It wasn't televised. Yeah, so that one's already over. Okay, so you guys were covering that one. I wasn't aware of that one. But it wasn't televised, so it was really not something to have much insight on. I did not know it helps prevent kidney stones. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I saw a question about being disbarred. There's nobody's going to get to be disbarred on this case, Brennan or the judge. I don't see that happening because they're part of the insider club there. Oh yeah, Adel. Yeah, and that's a good point, Microjosh. You should do the Adelson bump if we can talk sometime soon. That's a case you would be really have some great stuff on. Coach Mo says you should be a VIP seat at CrimeCon. You're a genius, and you say we love you, Richie. They deserve global recognition. That is true. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have time to look in the case that's already over, though. Wasn't he convicted of murdering a couple of guys? And he was convicted. Yeah, very easy for the plastic to get into the jacket. I mean, they just threw stuff in a bag together. So it could easily be covered up or attached to it if you pull it out of the bag. I mean, just even static electricity could hold some of those plastic pieces, probably if they're real small. Inky Pinky, I didn't realize Microdrots had stuff on the Idaho 4 already. Yeah, I think any case should be available for filming, live streaming. I think the public has a right to know. A court should not be held with limited seating if they're very popular and there's a large following, like in Karen Reed. Imagine if Karen Reed didn't have live streaming of her trials going on. Yeah, I think the envy you're talking about watching Andrew Burkhardt's coverage of Delphi. It's intensely in depth, brilliant, devastating because the case is devastating. I think she's the one that was saying that he was set up and she thought he was innocent or something. Yeah, thanks, Leslie. Leslie and I'll be watching the rest of that at some point over the next couple days on the Runkle, the Bailey or something like that channel. Ian Runkle, a Canadian guy, does something like gun law or whatever. He was convicted of murdering a couple teenagers at a bridge. 2 young girls. Okay. Somebody else thinks he was framed. Fined for 13. I just don't know the case at all. I don't have time to get into it. Okay. See how? Thanks for clarifying. You've only done Karen Reed so far. I wonder where people are getting that. Missy, you can watch it on this channel right here because I covered it tonight on ABC. It was a one for ABC. I think they also did it on another channel somewhere else, but we covered it all here tonight. Joe Kelly, you haven't figured out a way for Kohlberg to be interesting other than in a morbid way. Yeah, that is a morbid case. That's a one horrific murder scene there. Yeah, Corey Richens, that might be something we'll follow. If there was just an arrest made there of her then husband at the time she was murdered, it may be a couple years before it gets to trial. So I don't think that's one that's going to be very, very soon here on the radar. Truth Ginsburg, you're asking that you watched Unity Leslie night. Can I explain why the sidebars are sealed and why they couldn't talk about some details? Kids, I have no idea. I've never heard of that before. Well, it's all about hiding the truth, right? That's what this case has been about. So those sidebars should have been out and open. If the jury's not there, they should have been out in the open. We should have heard them as a public. But when you're playing dirty, you gotta hide the ball here, because if the truth is going to kill you and crush your case, you can't have that come out. You got to try to squash as much of it as you can. Okay, you just got arrested today after 5. Okay, Barry Morphew. Interesting. Kohlberger, you're saying it's so tragic, no question he's guilty. You think so? I mean, it looks like they got his DNA there on the knife sheath. That's a real difficult thing to overcome. Yeah, I don't know if the sidebars are going to be sealed forever, but anything's possible in that state if it's keeping out the truth. So Barry Murphy's in Arizona right now, waiting extradition. He's in the jail there. So let's see here. You got Richard's trial starts February 23rd to 26th. Haven't heard that. Sui generis, you're saying that attorney Andrea Burkhart went to Indiana for 6 weeks, covered Delphi, and did daily shows on the trial. The judge wasn't just unfair, but evil. She filed a motion there. It was great. Okay. I just heard about that, but I didn't follow it. Linda Capps, I think Kohlberger's attorney Ann Taylor would get a delay. She was given 64 terabytes of information. Depends when she got it. Corey Richards, you're saying also 26 February. Okay. Jeannie Greenwald, you're asking, do I think Donna Adelson's trial, it's Adelson, not Ellison, but I know who you mean, were released out in August? I think you mean to say, are they going to have the trial in August? I don't know. I think there's some problems they got with the case with the attorneys using their phones to help Donna communicate with folks. That's what some allegations were. If that's the case, there'd be some issues with the attorneys having some conflict. So Tina S., you're saying Kohlberger's attorneys have submitted so many delay motions. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I've never done that where I do a vote option. I know there's that vote option on the channel. Microdots, do you ship to the UK? Monkey Boy Brennan wants to know. Yeah. All right, he ships worldwide. Okay. All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off, guys. It's 12:25 here Central Time in the U.S., so I'm sure there'll be more interviews in the coming days. So don't know if I'll get back on and talk about this soon, but I'm going to start looking this coming week for the next case to cover. And let's see. Morphew, yeah, so Morphew. Okay, Morphew, we got Kitchens and some others. So, all right, thanks, y'all. Take care, be safe. And thanks again for all your wonderful support of the Karen Reed Justice Campaign. Just still so thankful that that their family can get back to normal now. And the horrible tragedies for over 3 years is something behind them now. So there's a lot that is going to have to happen for them to finally be set free from all these bad memories and all the trauma. But so happy for them, and I'm so happy for this jury, and hopefully we'll see more. And hopefully we'll see Morrissey resign and maybe Yannetti take over as the DA there. So anyway, talk to y'all later. Take care.